Brian and Chris here from Resolve Technology, and today we're going to talk about the big question, do I need a server at my office? We get this question a lot, and business owners are often, curious. I've got a big upgrade that I need to do. You're talking about replacing all this hardware and software. We have all this licensing. Does it make sense to do that all over yet again? Or should we move this up into, for example, the Microsoft Cloud 365 and Microsoft Azure? And the first question you probably need to ask is, okay, so your line of business software, what is the main application that runs your business? We have clients that run ERP systems, which basically touch every part of the organization. And then we have smaller clients where they might have one piece of software, for example, a physical therapist office. It's hosted in the cloud, and the vendor takes care of all the maintenance and everything else. All they do is log into a browser. So if that's the case where you're just logging into a browser, you don't need server on premise to host that line of business software. So in that case, you can get away without a server, right? Do you want to have a file server in your office? If you don't need the file server, you can use things like SharePoint and OneDrive and Microsoft 365, which eliminates the need for a file server. Hey, Chris, do you have any other examples of
Yeah.
where you can compare whether or not you need a server?
And I guess the size too. If you only have like 6 workstations, you don't, but you want it a little more secure than like a local login, you could just Azure AD join those devices with Microsoft 365 instead of paying for the on-premise hardware to spin up a file server, spin up a domain controller for managing, users and whatnot.
Yep, that's a great example. Like in the old days, you used to have to have a server specifically, what they call a domain controller, to do certain security functions with the workstation. Not so much now. Microsoft provides that infrastructure as part of their monthly licensing. So, but you do have to calculate that monthly licensing in, across months and years, right? Because it's a monthly fee that you need to pay, or a yearly
Yep.
fee, depending on how you set it up. So calculate that, and when you're doing your costs of on-premise versus cloud, we're not going to tell you to do either one, right? What makes the best sense for you? Another example is compliance, right? We have some clients that are under compliance, and they very much want to control a lot of things on site, right? Rather than put it into the cloud. You have to trust your vendors too. Like Microsoft is a well-known vendor. Google's a well-known vendor. Most people can trust those organizations, but they're, from time to time, we run across clients that like the idea of being able to touch and have control of their servers on premise.
Also, I'd say it's more about, the software they're using. Do they need QuickBooks running on a server that they all, phone into? Um, Things like that, what kind of a lot of applications, manufacturing companies might have require a physical server, and there's a database under the hood, and there's various software that requires physical infrastructure.
Good point. Yeah, so when they add up the costs, it might not make sense. It might be too expensive for them to throw that system up into the Microsoft Azure cloud or Google Cloud or wherever, because you can do that and then remotely access it. But they might also have issues with printers and other mobile devices on the network that they've got to deal with. So it really depends. We try to take a hybrid approach, but because everything's changing so quickly, we want to look to see if there's a solution in the cloud first. If there is, there's no sense in billing you for a bunch of on-premise stuff that you don't need, right? Email is a perfect example of that, right? Like Microsoft 365 or Gmail, whatever. I mean, it doesn't make sense to run your own mail server anymore, right?
Right.
In very limited cases will you run your own mail server. So did we hit most of the main points on that one, Chris?
Yeah, I think so. That,
All
that
right.
covers most of it.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.